All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming forward to our regularly scheduled meeting tonight, and we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'd like to continue with the roll call. Ms. Palacio.
Governing Board President Sherry Lowell.
Present.
Governing Board Clerk Denise Reese. Here. Governing Board Member Anthony Bruno.
Here.
Governing Board Member Raul Rodriguez.
Present.
Governing Board Member Dr. John Sparks.
Present.
District Administration Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Darlene Robinson.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Lisette Huey.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowe, members of the board, I do recommend your approval of the agenda as it was revised, and I would just note that if inquiring minds wanted to know, a couple of the policy advisories that are struck are only struck because we have customized Sahuarita policies that are not part of that ASBA umbrella, so they don't need to be updated in the same manner. And with that notation, I would recommend approval of the revised agenda.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowe, members of the board, this evening you have in your packet draft copies of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the board way back on September the 11th, in addition to some other notifications of public gatherings of the board in the amount of a quorum or more, specifically the Arizona School Board Association Law Conference from September 4 through 7, the University of Arizona Memorandum of Understanding for the Semiconductor Program on September 10th, the On the Trail 9/11 Patriots, and the Pima County Board Superintendent Collaborative back on September 16th, and I would recommend your approval of all of those as presented.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to ratification of vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening. Tonight, I recommend payroll voucher ratification number 6 for $2,020,058.16. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 1020 through 1025. That is for this current fiscal year, and then old fiscal year is 3117 through 3122, and that will finish out our old fiscal year of 2023-24 expenditures, for a grand total of total expenditures of $3,406,264.04, and a grand total of both payroll and expense ratifications of $5,426,322.20.
Thank you very much. Do I have a recommendation? Oh, do I have a motion? Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. This evening I have just a couple of things to note. One, I had a chance to go to the Sahuarita High School U of A Day. We have, I think Ms. Favelas here, like 85 students that have already been admitted to the University of Arizona, and they had a great celebration, recognition. I think it speaks to the high academic goals and attainment of our students and the efforts of our faculty and staff. So very, very proud of that. I also had a chance to attend a very unique and special Sahuarita event last Saturday. You see some pictures perhaps up there on the wall. This was the Sahuarita Raider competition, affectionately known as the Beast. There's a reason for that. These young people are amazing. First of all, it was as we all know, very hot last Saturday. And they were competing in events ranging from climbing tall objects like that, climbing in the mud, lifting heavy things, running around with sacks, big heavy sacks on their back, stuff like that. And they do this final culminating event that is actually called The Beast. It's about a 3.5-mile run with everything I just described thrown in the mix. And there were 250 students, ROTC students from California, Arizona, Texas, I think, and New Mexico. And it was all of these young people were super inspiring, just their grit, their discipline, their dedication, and their teamwork. I am proud to say that our students, as they often do, make us beyond proud. Out of the 27 teams, the overall champion of the Beast was Sahuarita team number 1. The top boys finisher is a young man, a wonderful young man named Michael Daly. Just watching this young man work is exhausting. I mean, he's unbelievable. And the girls champ was also a Sahuarita student, Kylie Gallego. So unbelievable. I love that picture. That's young Mr. Daly. You know, obviously after having completed everything that I just described to you and winning in first place. But I think that picture of him taking the time to mentor a younger Raider, a younger cadet, to me, I could almost label that picture the essence of leadership, is just helping other people to grow. So our students make me amazingly proud, as they do all of us. And I just want to say thanks for a great first quarter. It's been a challenging first quarter, but a super successful one, and we're looking for more to come in the second, third, and fourth quarters of the year. Wish everybody a nice fall break. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the governing board reports. Dr. Sparks.
Thank you very much. Just have to, I always love it when we do the Pledge of Allegiance when we have a full audience. It just makes the meeting. I really enjoy it. And I think it's because, you know, young people say the Pledge of Allegiance with gusto, and I miss that. And so let's enjoy it. But also, I hope everybody has a great fall break. At one quarter down, I think, and the fall season is just so busy. Even elementary, middle school, high school, it's just a busy time of year. So I'm grateful everybody's here, and that's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, last week I had the opportunity to go to Sahuarita High School with Common Ground Church, and we grilled hamburgers and hot dogs for the students. I loved it. It gave me an opportunity to talk to students, and they very excited and motivated for this upcoming year. And we took about 100 hamburgers and about 100 hot dogs, and I'm happy to say we were wiped out. They went home that evening very full. I can assure you that. We were there for about 4 hours. I enjoyed every minute of it, and it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bruno.
No report today.
Ms. Reese.
I just want to put a shout out to our high schools for celebrating our students as they get their admissions. The event at SHS was super cool and was really proud, but I have a senior who's been admitted, so I probably am a little biased, but it was a really, really, really neat event, and I'm just grateful that the students are getting some of those celebrations as we continue on this year. And for anybody who's involved in music, particularly at the high school level, welcome in October, and we'll see you out there on the field.
Thank you very much. And we will move on to recognition of community, staff, and students. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. One of our very favorite parts of every school board meeting agenda is the recognition of the amazing people, staff, students, community members who really make Sahuarita shine. And we begin this evening, I believe, with item B, which is the October Support Staff Team Member of the Month. And I believe, as always, Mr. Downs will do the honors of telling us about this month's honoree. And it looks like Mrs. Reese will do the honors of presenting the award. Mr. Downs.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela. Governing board members of the community, it's my honor to recognize this month's Employee of the Month for classified staff. Again, we have over 400 employees. It's always hard to pick just one person every month. We get many nominations, and we have many people who are deserving of this award. I took a quick glance around, and I don't know if the employee is here, because if they are not here, she's a classified employee who also works after hours as a coach. And she said she didn't know if she was going to be able to make it because she's coaching. So I don't know if she's here or not, but we will still go ahead. It is my pleasure to read this nomination for Mr. Michael D'Souza and the Onza Trail Administrative Team. We have nominated Mrs. Amanda Fox as the Sahuarita Unified School District's Support Staff Member of the Month. And Amanda, are you here? If not, you're coaching. Okay. You want to do it at next meeting? She's probably still going to be coaching next meeting. I feel like I should probably read it anyway and acknowledge her.
Why don't
Would
you go ahead and
Okay.
we'll formalize the recognition, and if she'd like to come back to our next meeting, we will welcome her with
Okay.
open arms.
Well, Amanda Fox is a great team player. She's a person that you can rely on for best practices on overall school operations. She is approachable, has high expectations, and she treats all of our students with dignity and respect. Ms. Fox performs a multitude of tasks along with being an administrative assistant to Mr. Moreno. She is responsible for maintaining the master calendar for the school. She processes 45-day screeners for the principal. She posts information on social media sites, and she helps to keep the front office running smoothly and efficiently, even on the busiest days. Teacher and staff continually rely on her for support and her vibrant personality and how she complements the front staff. The Onza Trail leadership team is more than happy to recommend Amanda Fox as the support staff employee member of the month for August. So congratulations to Amanda Fox.
And Scott, we'll make sure to reach out to Ms. Fox, and if you could invite her, if she's available, to come up at a meeting at a future date.
Thank you. So move on.
May I
So
proceed to students?
absolutely. Thank
As
you
I
very
said,
much.
one of our very favorite times of every school board meeting, that's the opportunity to recognize the amazing contributions of our students in all of our schools, and in particular to celebrate the importance of character in the educational process. We have not just really smart, really dedicated, really accomplished students, but we have young people that truly are outstanding citizens, that demonstrate the highest level of character, virtue, and by their daily example, really serve as leaders, not just for the young people in their campus, but for all of us. They set a great example, and they are the future of our country and our community. And Lord knows we can use all of the great character and citizenship that we can get. Our future depends on it. So congratulations. And also mom, dad, tata, nana, whoever came tonight, your friends, thank you for coming, because we know that your students are here because these are values that you've modeled, that you've expected, that you've taught, that you've reinforced. And thank you for making character and citizenship an important part of your home education and how you've brought your children up. Please, please, please continue to encourage this. This will be a vital part, not only of their success, but of their contribution as citizens of our great country. So thank you so much. We cannot say congratulations enough. And we'll begin with the honors. Again, Mrs. Reese will present the certificate and the special prize with much gratitude to our friends at Freeport McMahon, who has sponsored this program from the beginning. And Kim's here from the Green Valley News to take your picture. So when your name is called, come down, receive your award, shake our hands. You kind of walk around. Mr. Bonner over there will line you up on the steps. We'll take your picture so that you can come out on the pages of the Green Valley News, Sahuarita Sun, and then we will all clap for you once again. So again, congratulations. And we will begin with our leader in character from Sopari Elementary School. Congratulations, Adeline Lopez. Adeline, come on down. Congratulations, Adeline. And we will now recognize our leader in character from for this month from Onza Trail School. At Onza, we do two of them because not only are they big, but they have elementary and middle school. So we do one of each. And our elementary leader in character from Onza Trail is another fourth grader. Congratulations, Luis Martinez Amezcua. Luis. Congratulations to Luis. And we now recognize the leader in character from Onza Trail Middle School, Congratulations, 7th grader Gabriella Wiggins. Gabriella. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. We now recognize the leader and character from Sahuarita Primary School. Congratulations, Lilu Contreras. Congratulations to you. And we now, it's now my honor and pleasure to congratulate the leader and character from Sahuarita Intermediate School. Congratulations, Remy Mortensen. Remy. And we now recognize the leader and character from Copperview School. Congratulations, Ariana Martinez. We now move to our other K-8 school, Wrightson Ridge, where we recognize 2 students. Good job. Beginning with our elementary honoree from Wrightson Ridge School. Congratulations, Marco Enriquez Valenzuela. And our next honoree from Wrightson Ridge is an 8th grader. We are proud to recognize Jose Ortiz. Jose. Well done. And I believe we are now at Sahuarita Middle School, where our leader and character is Valeria Siqueiros Chavez. Come on down. And we now move to our 2 high schools before coming back to Sahuarita Digital Pathway. So we'll start with Sahuarita High School, where it is my honor to congratulate senior Jace Hinkle. And we now honor the leader and character from Walden Grove High School, who also happens to be a senior. Congratulations, Salvador Nieves. And finally this evening, we round out the honors with Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy, our newest fully accredited, fully online school. And we go from high school seniors to kindergarten. How about that? Congratulations, leader and character SDPA, Charlotte Britton. I don't see Charlotte. We'll make sure she receives her award. But parents, if while Mr. Bonner kind of lines them up over there and we take the official picture, if you'd like to come down and take your own shot, we'll give you a shot to do that. And I will say as you're coming down that the meeting continues, but understand there's homework and other things. It's totally appropriate after this if you need to leave. Thank you. And congratulations. One more round of applause for our leaders and character. Just for fun. Just for fun. It's good. It's good for all of us. Keeps us humble. Keeps us humble. That would have been great. That would have been good. That's right. It's a term of endearment. It makes us all feel. That's right. That's right. Right. It was a good purpose. Congratulations again. It'll go in the file. You and me have the same. Betsy, could you give that to Betsy for the file? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We do. Oh. It's cutie. Oh yeah. I wish I had half of that energy. Yep. Hiding back there. Look. Oh, I love it. Oh, you could see the joy. Is this the best time spent? Congratulations. Congratulations. Is it? It's kind of a nice sound. I like it.
Ah. Sorry. That's good. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and proceed with the meeting, and we're going to move on to call to public, which we do have a call to public. We do have a statement to read, and go ahead, Ms. Reese.
Consideration and discussion of comments and concerns from the public. Those wishing to address the governing board may do so at this time or at the board's discretion at the time the item appears on the agenda. All speakers are requested to hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. 20 minutes will be allowed for both online and in-person comments. In accordance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. Any comments not read during this agenda item will still be entered into the public record.
Thank you very much. Ms. Blasio, do we have a timer? I've got one. If not, we'll put it up. Do you want me to just do it with my phone? Just a moment. You can go ahead and step up to the mic. Oh, perfect. Okay. Go ahead and step up to the mic. Oh, wait, no, sorry. We have,
Our speaker is Yvette Serino.
perfect. Thank you very much. And we'll start the timer when you start.
Hello, my name is Yvette Serino. First of all, I just want to say that you guys do an outstanding job in notifying parents when issues arise regarding security, and our staff at HSS also has done really well, and I'm proud to say that, you know, the teachers have stepped up and are searching backpacks and things like that. But I just wanted to mention that as a parent, and I know I've discussed this with other parents, we'd like to know what the plan is for future, because I know the teachers right now are searching backpacks, and of course I purchased a clear backpack for my son, but many of the students can't afford to do that. Does the district have any plans on providing a clear backpack for the rest of the students that cannot purchase one? And are you going to put in or get a grant for metal detectors? Because right now you check the backpack, but students can have a weapon on their body as you're not checking the body. And some of the students have been waved in and their backpack has not been checked because they're actually not trained to do that. So I wanted to know if in the future we could allocate funds that would specifically be for hiring actual security staff, that their job is only security, and that they can do a little bit more than, you know, what teachers and staff are doing now, so that they can just concentrate on the kids. That's all I wanted to say tonight, so
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We will move on to item number 7, our new business, Dr. Valenzuela.
Item number 7, new business. Believe it or not, it's time to talk about the calendar for 26-27. As the board may recall, a couple of years ago, through commentary and dialogue that took place right here in this boardroom, the board asked that we stay a couple of years ahead. Of course, Mr. Bonner's I've asked him to lead the charge on this for the last several years. Now I assume he's passing the baton to Mrs. Robinson. The only highlight that I would provide is that he's going to talk a little bit about the possibility of an additional graduation date. Possibility. So with that teaser, I'll turn it over to Brett and Darlene and let them tell you all about it.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela, members of the board, and members of the community. You're right, it's 2026, 2027 calendar timeframe, and as referenced through the board's direction and guidance, so we are always 2 years in advance, with the option to always revise or make amendments through the board process as needed with our calendars. Our calendars are posted on our website, so for public access, they're available, and our current year is available, and school year 25-26 is also posted on our website currently, which our board approved. Presented this evening, though, is school calendar 26-27. Some standard operating norms for our school calendar is that we are, under state statute, required to have 180 school calendar days, which we have reflected on the school calendar. It's a good balance. First semester, we have a total of 90, with first quarter having 44 days, instructional days, and the second quarter having 46 days to total 90. For second semester, we also have a balanced calendar with the third quarter with 47 days and the fourth quarter with 43, total of 90, which then gives you a total of 185. With this calendar, it is also reflecting the feedback that was received on our OHI survey with our parent-teacher conferences specifically. So this will be the second year that reflects a change when we do our parent-teacher conferences for the fall and spring semester. So this is reflected on school year 25-26 and now proposed 26-27, where the first semester fall parent-teacher conferences will fall on September 10th and 11th, as reviewed and requested on the OHI survey, to have those conferences before fall break. And then in the spring semester, parent-teacher conferences will take place on February 11th and 12th, prior to spring break, as reflected in the feedback from parents and community. With that, we have our traditional holidays, and a well mapped out calendar that stays within our normal time frame, ending school typically historically before Memorial Day, and then right after Memorial Day, summer school starts, which has been our tradition for years past. And with that, as Dr. Valenzuela referenced, one addition, and I'd like to commend Ms. Flores, her entire staff, and her community, and her students at Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy, through dialogue, through the leadership at both Walden Grove and through Sahuarita High School, and also conducting a survey of SDPA, Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy parents, students, and staff. They are making a recommendation to separate graduation ceremonies to have their own independent graduation ceremony specifically to Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy. This will not be in play this year. So no changes this year, and let me emphasize again, no changes this year. They'll still continue to share the graduation platform with the school of residency. So for example, if I'm a student at SDPA, I go to school at either Walden Grove or Sahuarita High School, I would attend that physical location for the graduation ceremony. That will continue this year. And that was strong feedback from the current seniors. They did not want that change. Moving forward in school year 25-26 and proposing 26-27, we would add a separate date on that Tuesday of the last week of school, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the district auditorium, and it blends nicely with our middle school graduation ceremonies, promotion ceremonies, I should say, where the AM hours will not conflict. The PM hours, there's a small overlay, but not by much. So 3 to 4 p.m. here in the district auditorium, the parking lot will be manageable, and our families will be able to gather to celebrate the graduation and have a celebration for our SDPA students who are graduating and have their own ceremony as well. Like in past practices, we like to present the calendar and hit pause. Amber Woods has put an active link that she'll activate tomorrow on our district webpage, where parents, staff, community members can review this calendar and add any feedback or insight based on what's being proposed. We'll share that feedback back in November, and that's when it'll be brought back to the table for final review and approval through Dr. Valenzuela.
So at this point, I would recommend tabling it as per our past practice.
Thank you very much for your recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in, you want to say something? Yeah.
Madam President, I think I'm grateful that the SDPA is reaching out. I think it made a lot of sense to combine structure, because a lot of those students, because of the pandemic, had started with the cohort of students and were really part of kind of socially that group, although they went to SDPA. I think that's less common now. Our SDPA group tends to be relatively stable, it seems like, of a consistent group of people moving through that process. So I'm just grateful that they're talking about it, because I think that makes sense, and to calendar that in is, I think, important going forward. So that's all. I'm grateful that we're talking about that, because I think there's a farther separation socially. They're their own entity and group today, if they put it that way, versus before they were often highly connected to those groups because of COVID, stayed in SDPA. So,
And Dr. Sparks, you're accurate. We are 3 high schools, 1 district.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they are accredited, they're recognized, and they are independent as far as having their recognition as a true high school with their colors, their own diplomas. So it is reflective on your feedback as well.
I think it has, I mean, all of our schools have their own culture, and I think SDPA has their own culture. And it's nice that they're recognized as part of that. And I'm just still shocked about how many people don't realize we have a fully accredited online. And, you know, this is part of them having their own entity and whatever they want. I think it's great that we support it.
I am equally grateful, though, that you guys did reach out to the
Yeah.
seniors for this year and kind of cleared that with them. You know, sometimes if you're anticipating one thing to shift gears, right, it's sort of in the middle of it, it's really hard to swallow. And so I'm just grateful that we allowed them to have a voice in that decision.
It's 2024. Pandemic was 2020. Right? It's kind of crazy. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all that. It was great. I'm going to move on to new business. Item number A, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowe, members of the board. This is really a testimony to the resourcefulness of our district and our people. Specifically in this matter, I'd cite Florence Lopez, who works in our office. Building renewal grants are basically state funds that are available to meet adequacy standards. And they're competitive, and you have to put in for them. And then, of course, the caveat is they have to be appropriately appropriated through the legislative process. So there's always that asterisk. But to be resourceful in pursuit of these is noteworthy. These are a couple of BRG grants, as they're affectionately known, that have been given, I guess you'd call conceptual approval. And what I'm bringing this evening to all of you for consideration is acceptance and approval of the terms and conditions, so that then it can continue through the process, the authorization and the legislative process to provide on the one, and I'll do them one at a time, not to get ahead of myself. This first one is in regards to the Walden Grove High School fire alarm system. And the one we have is compliant with the fire marshal, but it's not at the most current code as is required like right now. And so we're eligible, and if we're able to get the funds, we'd like to upgrade that system. So I would recommend at this time the board's approval of that building renewal grant for the Walden Grove High School fire alarm terms and conditions, so that we can all sign it and send it on its way to Phoenix.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Mr.
I
Bruno.
just want to say, as somebody who works in the grant writing field, it's always amazing to me that when a state has to cut its budget $1.4 billion, that they don't get all the program time. And I know the work that goes into writing a grant and receiving those funds.
Yeah.
So I am greatly appreciative to everyone who worked on that grant. It took a lot, and I appreciate it.
And you understand, I'm sure, Mr. Bruno, because I know you you write many large government grants, that they are meticulous. They have significant regulatory and compliance requirements. And so your points are very well noted and appreciated and will be passed on.
And I'll also say that most of the government grants don't end with receiving the money. There are reports and audits, and so it's not a gift. It may be a gift to get the equipment, but the work goes on. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number B, Dr. Valenzuela.
Very similar points that I just stated. I would echo once again, just a unique comment about this. Again, thanks to the authorization of the School Facilities Oversight Board. We're working, Mr. Downs is overseeing about a $11 million project to expand the capacities in the space at Walden Grove High School. And the new space is going to have a fire alarm, or a PA system that meets the latest FCC requirements. And so this building renewal grant will upgrade the PA system of the general campus, which we forget that Walden Grove opened in 2011. And so it has adequate equipment, but not the most up-to-date equipment. And so this would allow both the entire campus to be on the same most updated system. So I would recommend at this time the board's approval of the building renewal grant for the Walden Grove High School PA system, terms and conditions as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number C, the ASBA bylaw change. Dr. Valenzuela.
The only thing, I think the real expert in the room on this one is Dr. Sparks, who sits on the ASB Executive Board. The only comment I made is I read them. We are members of the Arizona School Boards Association, and the organization historically has been a vital organization in terms of providing vital services. In my reading it, my take is they're working to develop additional checks, balances, and broaden the oversight of the organization. And I just noted that it requires 2/3 of Arizona's school boards to make a change. So with that, Dr. Sparks, what can you tell us about it?
I'm having button problems. So I think the point of the rewrite and updating of the bylaws is that the bylaws are many years old, and I think have served the association well up until recent years. I think as the state grows, as the entity continues to evolve and develop, the changes that are in here are primarily focused on clarifying roles, expectations, not just for membership of the association, but for holding executive office, and what expectations come with that, how to structure the association as a whole, also how to allow the body, the governing board, and the executive committee to call meetings, and clarifies and codifies that structure. So if the body is concerned, that they have pathways and methods to call for meetings and have an expectation of being heard. So I've been through all the changes, and I think my perspective is this: I think the changes wholly are positive and good, and I think meet that criteria. What I say when people ask me about it, I regularly say, what I ask you to do is, as a whole, are the changes positive, and do they meet the expected growth and change and goals of the association, which is to be a representative for public school systems in the state of Arizona in a nonpartisan way, seeking to increase the understanding and expectations both on a local and a state level of how school systems should run and operate and be managed and governed. So I think the changes are worthwhile. I think everybody should read them. I also think, someone asked me what about this one thing I ask people to put that through the filter of, is that change you don't like significant enough to hold up the update of an entire process? And my perspective, I don't see anything in here that is so glaringly negative or unexpected that should happen. But I always ask people to read them with that lens, because we're talking about a very diverse state and well over 200 school districts. We all have different needs and expectations, but does this allow the body and the entity to move forward and advocate for public education in the state of Arizona? I don't know if that helped clarify or not.
Yes.
And so I would say my recommendation is that we should vote in the affirmative, and when the voting opens, to vote to change the bylaws to the updated.
There's a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And for any discussion on that?
So my only concern is that if any of us needed time to finish going through them, I did go through them line by line. I agree with Dr. Sparks. I think that the vast majority of these changes are really procedural in nature or clarifying in nature. And to be honest, when I read some of the changes, I was like, oh, well, I thought that's how we did things anyway. So that was my take when I was going through them. So my only concern is just making sure that if all of us have had a chance to read them, and making sure, and if not, if somebody needs a little more time, then tabling it until later in October. But I agree. I think that, in my opinion, and having written a fair amount of this kind of stuff before on my own, it definitely takes, this should have been done years ago. So it's, from my perspective, it's absolutely needed.
Excuse me, just point of clarification, Dr. Sparks, in regards to your recommendation, if there is a motion and if there's going to be a vote, I would request that in the motion that you just made a point of clarification that you authorized Ms. Palacios the authority to cast the vote on behalf of the board.
Sorry, I actually thought about that as soon as I said it. And I really was not, I made a motion. I really do make that recommendation. So I gladly amend that motion to the board to authorize Ms. Palacios to vote for the board in its the outcome
So we
recommended by
have
the
a recommendation with amendment.
And I'm sorry.
It's been moved.
And it's been moved.
And
Everybody's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think to the point that Ms. Reese said, I think a lot of the things you're reading here, you're like, oh, I thought that's how we did it already.
Exactly.
I think because the organization was a relatively small grassroots organization many decades ago. It's one of the longest standing school board associations in the country. And I think we do some really cool things in this state every once in a while, and one of them is this. We're one of the very first in the country. And so I think the world moved a little bit differently. There were different expectations. And I think a lot of these things, simple things like, can we have an electronic vote in certain circumstances? Well, we already can in the delegate assembly, but we can't in the annual. And I mean, there's kind of mixed matches of some of the technology just didn't exist. And we've kind of moved in that direction. And I think we really need to clarify it. And I think the roles have become more kind of codified and structured over time too.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will continue. You okay with continuing?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
item number D,
Yes, ma'am.
review policy.
Yes, this was an agenda item that was made at a previous meeting by a member of the board. And I'll just provide brief background, ask Mr. Downs to kind of summarize a little bit, and then I think it would be proper if the board requested for the board to have a discussion. This is policy JBEAA. It's been around for a really long time. And I think in particular, we're talking about one sentence. This has to do regarding conflicts of interest and staff member conflicts of interest. And I think the phrase in question is, no employee can directly supervise a close relative, period. And then it defines what a close relative is. So I would ask if it would be appropriate for Mr. Down just to kind of give you a historical, concise summary of how this policy has been applied. Gosh, I think it goes back to, I know it goes back before I was superintendent. But Scott, what else can you add to the information mix?
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela. I just want to read it again because I think there's one imperative word in there that has guided the HR department in terms of what was allowable or not allowable. I walked into several situations in which this was already occurring when I stepped into the HR world, and we've come up with an interpretation of that policy, again, open for your interpretation and direction as well. That the employment of close relatives is exactly what Dr. Valenzuela has said, is that no person employed by the district may be directly, and I quote directly, supervised by a close family, a close relative, meaning father, mother, son, daughter, sister, brother, or spouse. This policy will also apply for summer or part-time work, as well as full-time employment. And the way that has been employed, that has been interpreted throughout the last many years, is that the term directly supervise has been interpreted to not allow that direct supervision of any family member through formal, informal evaluations, and or explicit or targeted communication of direct job duties. So as long as the family member wasn't directly supervising them, wasn't directly guiding them, was pretty much removed from the whole process, that we thought that we were meeting the intent of the policy. And again, that is up to the board to give us further direction or do anything that you would like. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that might exist of any historical practices. But I try to sum it up as just quickly and neatly as possible for you guys so you could continue your discussion on anything that you would like. So with that, I'll pass it back to Dr. V.
Yes. Well, I think the purpose is to have a conversation about it, have a dialogue, and any questions and thoughts that we might have.
Madam President, I think, and I think I don't necessarily we can take motion and action, but I think I would like to give my perspective if that's okay. And I'm the one that called for kind of this conversation, and I think I'm not sad or angry or overly worried or concerned about past practices.
Agree.
I think this was last updated in 18, but if I dig harder, I think that this in its completion, especially the vendor stuff, the board stuff's state law. So it just basically says what the state law says. But for employees in particular, and I think as we've grown as a district, the pressures, needs, expectations, and kind of risks of having close relatives in some kind of linear direction, even though they may not be their direct supervisor, but kind of path, becomes more problematic as you grow as an entity. We were, when you're a little district, and we used to be a little district, I think we're still small, but in the state of Arizona, we're actually a fairly large district. We're not Tucson or Chandler, but we're considered a big district in the state of Arizona. Most districts in the state are under 2,000 children. And so my concern is the concept of direct supervision. And I think historically that has been taken to be their immediate supervisor. And that sounds easy, but if we have a special education resource aide that works in a classroom and reports up through that over to Jess Benet over in the district office through that pathway, that their reviews, their employment is directed in that fashion. But if that aide's spouse is a assistant principal or a principal in that school, it doesn't matter what the technical term of who writes the reviews. That person still runs that ship. And I think this is only problematic when we have a building run by an individual who is seen as the authority. If Stephanie Magnuson runs as the principal of Sahuarita High School, anybody who works at that school and functions on a daily basis in that school still reports to the principal. Doesn't matter who signs off on the report. And I think most of us come from systems. Every system I've worked in, that's been the deal. Like if anywhere in that path you have a spouse, that's a no-go. That's like the federal government does it that way, the county does it that way. And so I think that the clarification is that it isn't just the immediate supervisor. So we couldn't have someone, if they reported to an assistant principal, and we've had this where there were two assistant principals and one was a spouse of a teacher, and that teacher reported to the other assistant principal and then to the principal. While I think that's problematic, at least the direct line takes that assistant principal. But if the principal was their spouse, you couldn't get around that. Does that make sense? And so I think I'm trying to explain that as in few words as possible. If we have an employee who would normally report to the director of maintenance, but someone in their family is related to him wants to run a school, but that school person then reports to the overall head of maintenance, the
Head of transportation.
Yeah, Ramon, instead of to the middle person, we've created a new position. That person reports to Ramon. Does that make sense? Am I making myself clear?
Yeah,
I think that's problematic, and I want to add a different layer to that. I also think this means that if there are two people related closely, it isn't just a supervisory thing. If we have 5 second grade teachers at SPS and 2 of them are spouses, that can't happen anymore either. I can think of 3 times historically in our district where we've had 2 English teachers, 2 X grade teachers, and it causes problems. At the high school level, they both taught English. One had a bad experience with the spouse. They never wanted to take the other class, and they were the only person that offered AP Lit, or like AP Lang, I don't remember what it was. If we have 2 third grade teachers at Anza Trail, and they're in the elementary school, and there's only 5 teachers, they hold a power block by being related and being in the same grade. Now, if one's a third grade teacher and one's a 5th grade teacher, not a problem. They're in different teams. So I'm not trying to say we can't hire spouses in schools, but this isn't just, if Kristen Miller wants to hire her husband, right? This and that. It's also we're trying to prevent the accumulation of power, whether it's perceived or real. And that would be, so I think we need to be clear that direct means that person can't be in their line at all. And if that person that's married to them or is their sister or brother runs the building, they can't work that building because that's too much of a conflict. And I think I want to clarify here too, I think we cannot have 2 spouses, sisters, close relatives, a father and a son, or a mother and a daughter, a mother and a son in the same position in the same building, because that causes problems. 2 counselors, 2 teachers that are the same grade puts a lot of power in that group. if that makes sense.
I think
So,
I think all of us come from various backgrounds that we've worked professionally in government and other industries. And in my former employment, it was based on perception, because it was, if you have the head of the office and their spouse worked taking phone calls, what manager is going to correct the spouse when their boss is the person taking phone calls, husband or wife? And so that linear down, because even if you've had managers in between, they work for the boss, and what person is going to disappoint their boss. And so just the perception of that, it was just that they wanted to be hands off, because there's a lot of times when you deal with conflict, that you want to come into it knowing that it's the best case scenario and that you don't have to deal with those perceptions. So I like how we have say it makes me directly supervised, but that level has to be deep. It has to be redefined. Now, we have had situations where we have promoted from within and, we've moved something around. I think that's a lot different than movement, but, we're not going to tell somebody if, anyway. So, yes, but I think that it needs to be a little bit deeper than what we've got right here. Yes, please, Mr. Brown.
This has been a long time coming in this district. And I will say, and I will go back into history, there was a time when there were 3 board members from a certain community, and their children and their wives all worked for the district. And that actually undercut their supervisor. And so that was because we were a small community in a small district. And with the growth that we've had over the last 20 years, we have got to become legit. And that allows us to be above board. This allows us to be above board in what we do. We don't want to turn away good help, but we want to find a place for good help. And this allows some guidelines to do.
Thank you. And Mr. Bruno, I didn't even have to make any comment about how long ago it was that you served on this board, because you did it yourself. Because that's been a while. But no, I think if it would be agreeable, like Dr. Sparks said when he first started out, is this the purpose for this agenda item tonight is not to, get a scratch pad and start changing. But what would be appropriate, if the board wishes, is to ask me to go forward, given the feedback with my team, and to craft for your consideration an amended version of the policy that addresses the 2 points, which is basically what I heard is that along a certain division, or in this case a school or department, that the line of supervision does not create that potential conflict through the entire line, not just through one aspect of a line. And the other thing I heard that we can look to couch in there is again, I heard you say, Dr. Sparks, within a grade, I assume you would echo the same sentiments at the secondary level within the same department, that we look at putting some kind of parameters around there. And I'd be glad to work specifically with Scott and to craft something that the board could consider for better or for worse, for change or not change, but at least it takes into account what you said and it gives you something to consider.
Yeah. Madam President,
Yes,
first of all, I want to make sure none of the names I said have done any of this.
Yeah.
Or Crystal. That hasn't been. I'd
She
like
was
to
in the
make,
line of sight.
I'd like to make a motion that we request the superintendent and his staff to revisit this
Based on the discussion.
policy based on that discussion.
We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Venezuela. We are going to go and move on to item number E, policy advisories, volume 25. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowe, members of the board. This is a first read. And again, we were talking about Arizona School Boards Association and the vital services that the organization has provided historically for decades for public schools around Arizona. One of them is this ability to provide us with guidance about policy services. And this comes into the greatest play in managing the sheer volume of legally obligated requirements. Like after the legislative session, there are always a plethora of new policy mandates that have to be updated just by virtue of it's now the law. And so this, frankly, this is the case with these advisories that have emerged since the last legislative session. And again, these are first read, which is best practice, and as long as I've been around, the practice of this board. Just so if you're kind of intrigued, there's one of these that has to do with conflicts of interest, and it pertains to board members. It says that after you leave the board, there's a certain time where you can't even be a vendor unless there's a certain stipulation, like you're providing some kind of direct services to kids. So that came out of legislation. There's, as you remember, because it's coming up again in January, there's a statutory requirement that the board has to have an organizational meeting to designate its president, et cetera. And it used to say from January 1 through 15, which was sometimes tough depending on how they count.
Yes.
Now they've changed the law to where it says in January. So there's that. There's one that came out of legislature that the board has to provide enough seating for people that reasonably would want to attend the board, which obviously we do. There's requirements for some of with our emergency response plans, which we're continuing to develop in terms of how those plans have to be handled. And also, I think one of the big items of discussion this year was in the support services for foster children, foster students. So that's kind of the makeup of these policy advisories. It is a first reading, and so I would recommend tabling it at this time.
We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number F, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Basically everything that I said, except these are now in second reading. And these have been tabled already. These again evolve from the last legislative session. They involve things like board member qualifications and the need of board members to disclose if they've ever been convicted of certain crimes, things like that. Same for staff and volunteers. The requirement that we teach a number of lessons, a certain amount of time on the Holocaust and genocides and things like that. Preferential consideration for open enrollment to members, to dependents of military members. And the allowability under certain provisions for the emergency administration of, John, help me with the glucagon or glucagon? Glucagon, yeah, the diabetes, yes, the sugar medication. So this one, because it is second reading, and again, it is a routine advisory that we've received from ASBA, I would recommend approval as presented.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to consent agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowe, members of the board, you have in your packet a multitude, actually, of items that are allowed to be considered in one comprehensive motion, and I do recommend the consent agenda's approval in its entirety at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? 1,000 golf balls. And that's pretty amazing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and establish the next board meeting, which is October 23rd. Oh, no, sorry. Let me go back. Thank you very much. So I appreciate you. Possible future agenda items, considerations, anything from the board tonight? Perfect. Now we'll go on to establish the next board meeting, October 23rd, down in Arabaca at our school at Sopari will be
Amado.
We don't want to go down to Arabaca. Let's go to Amado. We'll stop along the way. Thank you very much. And we are going to move into executive session, so I need after 8 years. So we
I think
take a recess.
Right. We need a motion to move into executive.
motion moving, it needs to be a roll call, but I think we have to read the statement.
So we need a motion to move into executive session.
Madam President,
Yes, please.
I move that we go into executive session.
Second.
And then we do a roll call.
Correct.
Correct. Right? So we're going to do a roll call vote for that
Yes.
vote. Dr. Sparks,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Yes.
Ms. Lowell. Yes. We are going to take a recess.
And- Point
Right. And there will
point
be no further public action by the board. They will come out only to adjourn.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. No more public action.
No more public action after this. Okay. Thank you very much. And we will take 5, 10,